part of the reason that I have thus far been a little bit like resistant to the Girard thing is that he has these like two big ideas that are very kind of sexy sounding, like a mimetic desire and scapegoating. And uh, the sometimes it seems like people talk about them as though they're like this new master theory of everything, and he's finally like unlocked the secret of like Judeo Christianity, and and I think I hear people in casually invoking mimetic desire more often than I hear people casually invoking scapegoating. But what do you make of that? I mean, what it's kind of an open question, but should it not be treated as this sort of theory of everything, or if it is, you know, what do we do with that? Is it overhyped, or is it just how do you integrate it with kind of Christianity rather than like having it be like dominating your worldview? If it,
Yes,
yeah.
I think that's a great question. It's an open question for me. On a 30,000-foot level, I would say yes, there is the risk that this theory can become like a second gospel,
Mm-hmm.
and I think it needs to be integrated into the Catholic intellectual tradition. I think that's its natural home, and I hope it's its future home. Um, I should say that Rene Girard was uh, from the time of his reversion in his late 30s, um, at which point he had his kids baptized and he convalidated his marriage. He was just a Catholic, for the rest of his life. And he attended St. Thomas Aquinas Parish in Stanford, and it's always been fascinating to me that there is this is the Dominicans ran the parish, I think, and there's this big stained glass window of St. Thomas, where you at the front of the church, just where you expect it to be. And so Girard would have been like in this, staring contest with Aquinas,
Mm-hmm.
for like decades of his life. And I always wonder sort of what went through his mind. Um, I, I would say so. Of the two terms that you mentioned, mimetic desire and scapegoating, I think mimetic desire, is arguably a technical word, arguably even a kind of jargon. Scapegoating is a colloquial word that I think Girard simply wanted to make the case that the colloquial use of the word scapegoating is actually uh, represents a tremendous epistemological achievement that we owe to the Bible and to the Gospels. And then, with regard to mimetic desire, um, yeah, you wonder sort of uh, how many of sort of the coils of the serpent you really need to be familiar with in order to, sort of have a flourishing and virtuous life. Like I do think that mimetic desire captures something that, say, Thomas's discussion of envy doesn't quite capture. I mean, one example of this would be um, that in the Summa, uh, St. Thomas points out that you can only envy someone who is close to you. You wouldn't envy someone who is far away from you or whose achievements are sort of impossible for you to equal.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like envies like. And this aligns really well with Girard's understanding of what he calls internal mediation, which is the modality that mimetic desire takes in the modern democratic world, where hierarchies have collapsed and people's spheres of possibilities overlap, and any of us can sort of imagine ourselves into the shoes of anybody else and
Right,
ask
because I was
ourselves,
about to say, people do envy celebrities and rich people and Bill Gates and whatever else.
yes, that's right, they do, but I think I think that like Girard's insight into mimetic desire in the modern world is sort of consonant with Aquinas on envy. Like we sort of uh, as the Purdue comparatist Sandy Goodhart says at the beginning of the documentary, he first heard Rene Girard, and the line that he remembers from the lecture that made a big impression on him as a grad student was human beings uh, don't fight because they are different. They fight because they are the same. So it's that likeness that sort of intensifies desire and makes conflict more likely.
Hmm.
So in that sense, envy and mimetic desire are overlapping. But then there's also this thing, this external mediation, is Girard's technical term for it in his first book, which is a sort of unidirectional imitation, where you imitate somebody who's far above you or very distant in a peaceful way, in a positive way, an aspirational way.
Right.
And sort of that is mimetic desire, or it's at least imitative desire, but it is not envy.
Okay. Interesting.
And then you could say that like there are these very protean sort of uh, possibilities for mimetic desire that novelists and playwrights tend to explore in their works. An example of this would be, say, the play As You Like It, Shakespeare's As You Like It. There's this shepherd who's chasing after a shepherdess.
Hmm.
And like the more he chases after her, the more haughty and disdainful she becomes. And the more she rejects him. And the more she rejects him, the more he sort of wants to chase after her. And so arguably you can see this as a mimetic dynamic. It's not envious in the classical sense, but she is imitating the desire that he has for her, and so she comes to desire herself more, and therefore finds him less and less desirable.
Huh.
And so along comes Rosalind, I think disguised as a man, into the forest, and she encounters this pair of unhappy lovers, and Phoebe, the shepherdess, is sort of giving this poor shepherd a very hard time and behaving very disdainfully towards him. And Rosalind says to her, sell, you're not for all markets. Uh, which is just devastating. And immediately Phoebe falls in love with Rosalind disguised as a man because like so there's this, all of these like protean sort of patterns of desire that fall under the heading of mimetic desire, but that aren't quite envious in the sense that we usually understand that word.
Wow. Wow. Interesting.